Hello, students. I have a new policy. Anytime I say you know, that doesn't count because that's a meta reference to it. I'm going to restart the video. So, what I wanted to go over some more detail about the first kind of week of instruction. I think that I left some of the detail out when I think about it. So, this is going to cover, and I'm also going to try to focus, make these videos a little shorter. Probably won't happen, but I'll try. What I want to do is give you an idea what C# is sort of in the world of programming. So some people would, I've heard this anyway, and who knows what the real account is, but some people call C# a Java implementation for .NET. And the reason is because way back in the day, you could only use Visual Basic for programming .NET stuff. Visual Basic is built on top of and incorporates inside of it BASIC. If you guys know beginner all-purpose symbolic instruction code, teaching language with the line numbers 10, 20, you can still do that at Visual Basic. You don't usually use the line numbers, but there's something called a label, and you could make line numbers be labels. It's complicated, but so that's a whole different kind of dialect of computer languages. If you know BASIC, you'd C syntax would look kind of strange to you. So again, Java is a C syntax language, so is C++, obviously, and C. That's kind of a tautology, and it's assumed by definition C is a C syntax language, and C# too. If you know C or C# or C++ or Java, you'll recognize a lot of the structures, the syntax of those languages. So I'm assuming most of you come from a Java background at some point, because that's what Pellissippi usually starts the programming side of things with. And I think it's a prerequisite for this course. I need to check that. But anyway, the easiest way I can describe this is to compare it to Java, because I want to, just with this qualifier, right? I'm sure like the people that are into the nitty gritty of how each one's built would like maybe contradict what I'm saying to some extent, but probably not. I mean, what I'm giving you is a very basic comparison of the two. So, with a little bit of the differences. So, what you can compare C# to in the Java world is C# is the language of Java syntax that you type in NetBeans, or, you know, I did it. I'm not starting over though. It's comparable to just the syntax that you type in a text editor that you Java-C compile into bytecode, right? And then you run the bytecode on a virtual machine, Java virtual machine. So if you want to compare that to what's going on in the .NET world, the code that you actually write is the C#, that's the Java. What it compiles into is bytecode. It's even called bytecode in .NET, but the name of that bytecode is Common Intermediate Language. You see it indicated here in the middle of this chart. So this is where it's a little different, because I mean that part's the same. It compiles into an intermediate language. And then so on. It runs on our virtual machine. The virtual machine's name in this case is called, I don't see it here. Oh, there. No, yeah, it's not here. It's the CLR, Common Language Runtime. So the virtual machine, the JVM is the CLR. That's the way to think of it. So the overall picture, you write in Java, you write in C#. You compile those things into an intermediate language, which is bytecode. In Java, it's called Java bytecode. In the .NET world, it's called Common Intermediate Language. It used to be called Microsoft Intermediate Language, in case you ever see that anywhere, MSIL. So it compiles into CIL. The thing that's a little different is that you have other languages that also compile into the same thing, the very same thing. So imagine you have, say, I don't know, we'll call it foo language, and you compile it and it turns into Java bytecode. That's sort of what's going on here. In addition to that, there's this whole class library of things like Windows Forms and ASP stuff, and etc. All these languages have access to these intermediate like deeper level form. So like you can do C#. You can access through the syntax of C# things that like an array list or something, and one of some of these classes down here, or you can, you know, I did it again. Web pages would be something you can access through either language. You can create ASP.NET. What this amounts to is that you can create ASP.NET programs, projects using either Visual Basic or C# or both mixed together in the same solution. They would be compiled together to make the intermediate forms that actually run on the virtual machine. So, yeah, so to continue with that, you see intermediate languages listed here, and it's not called CIL for whatever reason, but kind of think of all this stuff. This compiles in using some of these things underneath the hood. You get access to these things using the particular syntaxes of these languages, and that all comes compiled together to build something that you would call intermediate language, or CIL, common intermediate language. And then you take this and you run it on the CLR, common language runtime, which will allow it it's called just-in-time JIT compilation. It compiles just what it needs as it runs in order to run natively on these operating systems here. And there's some other ones too, something called the Mono project. Used to be .NET was exclusively like a Windows thing, but it's been kind of ported to other things now. I hope this makes sense. The similarities again are you've got source code that turns into like a bytecode that runs on a virtual machine in both cases. Just very, you know, broad brushstrokes. Again, the details are going to be a lot more. There are going to be, you know, differences at that level, but at the overhead bird's eye view, it's going to be what I just said. The main difference is that you have several languages that can turn into that bytecode that you use, and it comes down really to preference. Okay, I think that covers what I need to cover about that particular topic. So think of the CLR, the Common Language Runtime, as managing the execution of the intermediate language, the CIL, the Common Intermediate Language. So, and the reason I'm hinting at this is because it's a test question. The word is managing execution. That's what the JVM4.NET is, the CLR. And that's less than 8 minutes. That's pretty good. And I'll cover some more topics in subsequent videos.